I find it difficult to talk about the process of writing while I'm doing it because I don't really know how I do it. And by that, I mean, I don't think consciously about planning what I do each day and having a strong structure by which I create the stories that I'm trying to make. I'm very much a pantser, so I'll have a vague idea for a story and then I'll start it often with a vague goal in mind. I mean, I have some. There's a route that I can see ahead of me, but I don't think very strongly about the ending. Sometimes I do, but generally I don't. And I certainly don't sit down and say, we're going to have scene, 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 end. I don't do that. The scenes and the characters generate themselves, and because of that, I can't come here and say to you, oh, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, because I don't really know. I don't really know what I'm doing. At least not in a conscious way. I let my subconscious work on the details, and then my conscious mind just dredges them up, and it gets put down on the page. And then I spent forever and a day going back and trying to make sense of what I dredged up for my subconscious, which is a long preamble to say I want to tell you about Heaven's Gates, which is my first novel that I want to publish, and I want to publish it this year. And so I want to tell you where I am with that. It's not the first novel I've written; it's the seventh novel I've written, I believe, but it's the one that I want to start with because I feel that it's represents how I currently feel about my writing and the kind of things that I want to express best at the moment. And some of my earlier novels are a little more either hard science fiction, or I drift a little into fantasy, or sometimes they're a bit more autobiographical. And I think they're all worth going back and working on and working up into novels that I will publish at some point. But I don't want to start with them. I want to start with Heaven's Gate. One, it represents how I feel about, what I want to create as an author. And two, because it's the most recent thing I've written. And so therefore it's most clearly in my mind, my conscious mind and my subconscious mind. And so I feel in the best position to kind of get it done in a moderately timely manner, by which I mean I want to get it finished this year, published this year. So, where am I with that novel? I have written a first draft and I am about three quarters of a way through a second draft. I have about 145,000 words, and that is probably too many. I'll the sweet spot is probably 120. So if I can get rid of 20,000 words, I'll be happy. I don't know if I will be able to do that, but that's my goal. And the way that I would get to that goal of 120,000 words is I do have a moderate amount of exposition in Heaven's Gates. And the reason why I have a moderate amount of exposition in Heaven's Gates is because I really like the idea of the story. And I don't want to tell you too much about the idea because the idea is a large part of the narrative, obviously. And it's the way that the characters and society and different societies react to the problem they're faced with that is the fun and the enjoyment and the excitement and the horror of what happens. It's a planet wide catastrophe. It may be a catastrophe or it may not be a catastrophe. And it may be a little bit of a clue to that in the title, the current title of the novel, which is Heaven's Gates. The novel's written from the first person, and it revolves around his family and a small company that he works for. It's a company that is based in Mozambique, but it also has headquarters in the United Kingdom. And so the scenes switch between Mozambique and the UK, and there is an indirect view of what's going on in the United States. And I wanted to contrast particularly Mozambique and the United Kingdom because it illustrates how different societies react to this problem. Obviously, the UK is fairly well resourced and fairly well organized, got strong infrastructure, legal systems. Mozambique is less well resourced, it's less well organized, and it has less strong legal political systems. And so the impact of this event on these two different societies is what I want to illustrate in those two places. And we also get a view through the protagonist's brother of what's going on in the United States. And so there's a little bit of exposition through the brother, who's a journalist, who can give us a view of different aspects of the disaster that the protagonist doesn't interact with directly. And I think that's really where I'm going to have to trim down the novel a little bit. Exposition slows the plot down, and so I want to get away from it, but I still would like to include it because it illustrates the impact of this event, which is profound and becomes increasingly profound as the novel progresses. What I'm struggling with at the moment in this first edit is getting the pacing right. And so I'm moving back between Mozambique and the United Kingdom. I think I do that 4 or 5 times. And you have to do it in such a way that it doesn't feel repetitive. And there has to be a reason about why you're in the UK and what you learn in the United Kingdom. And then when we are back in Mozambique, what you learn and what happens in Mozambique. And the two are a contrast, but they also are a little bit of a mirror of each other. And so that one illustrates what's happening in the other in a way. If you see what I mean, you probably don't. You have to read the novel. What I've been working on this morning for about an hour and a half, and I should have been writing, is a rough cover design, which I don't think will be final in any way. But what it will do for me is inspire me to get a move on and get this thing finished. If I can kind of visualize the book, the novel at the end, and it being a real thing that I can format, get ready, get the real final cover for, get all the gubbins inside and out done, and then have it as a physical item that I can read and hold in my hands. And so that's the purpose of the cover, which I'm going to show here. And hopefully it will get me through the weeks and probably months of hard editing work that I'm going to have to do to make this thing happen, uh, to the point where I'm happy to release it and put it out there and have people read it, I hope. In the meantime, you can read my short story collections, which are available through Amazon and Barnes & Noble, various other outlets. Just go to my website and check the details.